Hello everybody, and welcome again to another bike review. This time it's going to be my TMS Evo6 26Y. So TMS Evo6, this was my lockdown bike basically. I had gotten a Pure Trials competition bike earlier, the blue one, the Ozanis, and I really loved it. And I usually ride from my house to the spots that I ride, and it has double HS33 brakes on the Ozanis, and it's not the greatest for just riding around town. So I usually have to drive to the spots that I wanted to ride, and that wasn't my favorite. So I was wondering why I couldn't get a dual disc 26-inch. I mean, it's very common to have dual disc on a 20-inch Pure Trials bike, but it's not very common at all on a 26-inch. Obviously the wheels are bigger and the torque's involved and stuff for disc brakes. So I mean, I understand that, but I wanted to see for myself. So I looked around. TMS actually does make one, this one, a dual disc 26-inch competition trials bike. So I was like, okay, I gotta try it. It's a very modern competition geometry. It's a 1077 wheelbase, 377 rear chainstay. Plus 67 on the bottom bracket. The head tube is 72 degrees, so pretty modern competition style bike. The frame is 1.5 kilograms. The full bike comes out to 8.5 kilograms, 18.5 pounds, 18.8 pounds or so. So pretty respectable. It's got a carbon front fork, carbon handlebars, Comos bar. The carbon rims, that's the big advantage you can get when you go disc on a bike like this, is that you can run carbon rims. And the carbon rims are very stiff nowadays. They're pretty strong, and they offer some advantages. The disadvantages are that you've got to have a disc rotor, which can get dented and cracked and just destroyed basically. But it's silent. You can ride this thing around and not have to worry about not using your rear brake as an actual brake, because you've got to use it to just lock up when you're on the rear wheel and all. You can just ride this bike around. I mean, it's still a trials bike, but you can ride it around and it's silent. No more squealing. You don't have to grind your rims, which is all great things in my opinion. So I'll walk you through what I've done to the bike. It's a lot of fun to ride. There were a bunch of problems that I had to deal with in building it that I'll go over, but in the end it's been a lot of fun, but unfortunately it does not replace my Ozanis as a competition bike. The Ozanis is still just a tiny bit better in pretty much all respects, so the Ozanis wins, but this was a heck of a lot of fun, and it just showed me why people don't really run discs on a 26-inch competition bike. So let's take a look. Okay, so the rear end of the bike, this is the special end. This is what makes it different from a regular competition trials bike. You've got this beautiful disc brake adapter on there on a 26-inch bike. But this is also where most of the headaches came for me. I ordered this as just a frame, and it didn't really say in the description of the frame, it was all in French, but it didn't say in the description of the frame that the rear spacing was 116 millimeters. So that came as a surprise, because I had ordered up a regular 135 millimeter rear hub to build the wheels and all that, and everything was great. And the frame arrived and it didn't fit. Imagine that. So that was the first headache. I had to order another hub to rebuild the wheel, so that took a little time. And then in the interim, I was playing with the disc mount, and I realized that this disc mount was really close to the rotor. Right now, I mean, you can't really see, but the brake caliper slides back and forth to adjust it, and it's all the way against the stop, going this way. And it still kind of rubs just a little bit, so I'm waiting for the pads to wear down so that it'll be proper. But also, the rear brake mount was really badly faced, or at least I guess it was just welded on kind of askew. So it needed a lot of facing to actually get it square with the rear axle, which was all just a pain. And I mean, I didn't enjoy doing it exactly, but now it works. It's great. Everything's fine. Then on the other side, it has the regular screw-on track cog, like a lot of bikes, a lot of trials bikes have. And the way this one lines up, I think this is an alloy screw-on, just a regular screw-on cog. But with it fully screwed on, the chain line doesn't really line up that great with the cassette up front, and it actually kind of rubs the frame a little bit. So I made this little padding thing here so that it doesn't make an annoying sound all the time. But I've also got a chain guard down here for the usual place where it strikes the chainstay. But it needed another one up top because it's just really freaking close. And that's all down to the fact that it's 116 millimeter spacing in the back, which it doesn't need on a 26-inch bike. You've got more room, and on a 20-inch it makes sense because everything is closer to the pedals, and you gotta leave some room so that you can actually pedal. But on a 26-inch, that's not such a big deal because everything is moved farther back, and it gives better triangulation for your spokes when you build the wheels. It can be a stronger wheel. So I don't know why they went with 116. I know there's a lot of high-end bikes, 26-inch bikes that are 116, but most of them are 135 nowadays, just because you can get a stronger wheel out of it. And especially with a disc rotor on it, that brings things in a little bit more. It's like there's really not much triangulation to these spokes. But since it is a carbon rim, one of the things that I really love about this bike is this rear rim. This is a light bicycle Recon. It's a 46 millimeter wide rim, and it's almost a perfect arc. So it's about as strong a rim as you can get. It's really gorgeous and light and stiff and just amazing. And I never have to grind it because there's never going to be a break, touching this. So it's really nice. The spoke holes are not staggered on this. They're actually on the center line, or maybe they're staggered like just slightly, but they're not staggered like you would normally see on a trials bike that has a super wide rear rim. And because it's an arc, it doesn't really need to be staggered, and it just makes everything easier to line up. But it's a fantastic rear wheel. I'm definitely going to miss this rear wheel going back to the other pure trials bike that has a regular I-beam rear rim, because it's got to be used as a braking surface. Anyway, this was most of my headaches. But once I finally got the right hub, and I finally got the brakes spaced, and I finally got the chain line lined up, everything fit, and it was wonderful. And actually, I think the wheel has a little bit of custom dishing on it too, to get it centered in the yoke, because when it was built properly and properly dished, it was a little too far over, so I had to kind of give it a little bit of a custom dish to put it right in the center. And it's right in the center now, and it's been I've ridden it for a few months now, and it hasn't really been abused. I mean, I've bashed the rotors already, because that's to be expected. I went with the 203 millimeter rotors. These are the Hope rotors, and Magura MT5s for the brakes, just because I wanted the strongest and most powerful option for this, since I am trying to match it to my other HS33 rim brake competition bike. And it's, the brakes are not as strong as a rim brake in the rear. And you notice that when you're doing the extremes, when you're doing drop gaps, when you're, when you're really, 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 really forcing, or actually it's mostly when you make mistakes, when you're not quite dead center when you land on something. That's when you notice that you don't have the, amazing power of an HS33 rim brake. But for everything else, it's pretty great. You don't have to be ginger with the brakes at all when you're just riding around, and you can actually use it as a bicycle brake. I think I just have the regular pads in here too. I don't even have like the Superstar Trialtech pads for the MT5s, but they're pretty darn good. And once they've bedded in, it's a lot of power. And I honestly don't really feel the flex that people talk about in having the brake on the hub as opposed to the brake on the rim. I don't really feel the flex. I mean, I've built tons of wheels now, and these wheels were built really well. I'm gonna toot my own horn. They're fantastic. It feels the same on the rear, except for a little bit of pad knock now and again. But other than that, you don't notice. It's just it will slip if you're really, really, really putting the power in certain moves. So there you go. We've just got Bones pedals on here because I like the aesthetic of it. They're not, you know, the lightest things available, but I like the way they looked with these. And I'm also running the Bones cranks because I have these cranks on my other on my Ozanis, and I really like them because they're 24 millimeter axle like a Shimano, so you got a lot of bottom bracket choices that you can use. You can just use spacers to work out your chain alignment. I was gonna try to go BB30 on these, but I think the Clean or the Krukers, I don't know, whichever BB30 cranks I had to try on here, it wasn't working out so well. And I've had the same problem before on other bikes. It just wasn't working out, and it's really hard to find the appropriate spacers for BB30s, or at least it is for me. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong places. But so I just scrapped it and I went with these because these are great. They fit a cassette freewheel, which is great. This is a clean 135/9 freewheel. The same thing I'm running on the other on the Ozanis. Gets the job done, nice and light. They've been abused, you know. So still going strong. Now we can talk about the front. So the second thing that I really love about this bike is this fork. This is a Krukers carbon fiber disc fork. They make one with a 9mm through axle, which is pretty proprietary, and I think it would have been much better if they would have used a 15mm through axle. But anyway, I got the one that uses just standard 9mm dropouts, so you can use, you know, this is a Jitsi 100 race hub. Pretty standard. They use them on 20-inch bikes. They use them on 26-inch bikes. They use them on, you know, whatever. It's nice and light, strong. Gets the job done. Another 200mm rotor up here to another MT5. You know, I could have gone with the 180 rotors to make it a little lighter, but I was going for ultimate power just to see, because you can always step down. But you know, I wanted to go to the top first, and it's been great. It holds on in the front. Obviously, it doesn't hold on quite as well as an HS33 in the front, but it's also dead silent. So when I just want to ride around and, you know, going down long hills, because from my house to where I usually ride, there's a big hill. So every time I ride, it's an up and a down and up and a down. So it's nice to have silent brakes that you can count on and not have to worry about, you know, destroying your grind and all that. Again, carbon rim up front. This is another light bicycle. This is the 32mm wide, I'm pretty sure. This is like the lightest of their cross-country 26-inch rims that they had. I have this on my street trials bike as well. I've had them on 2 street trials bikes now. They're fine. This is a 28 hole, which is pretty standard for competition bikes. Laced up nice and tight, DT Swiss spokes. It's J-bend spokes. It's not straight pull. You know, I didn't go super light. It's not radial laced on the non-disc side. I mean, I could have done a couple of things to make it, you know, just a little bit lighter, but I was going for more middle of the road strong as opposed to proving a point light. So yeah, it's been great. It feels great on the front wheel. Feels great doing the up to front type stuff that I can actually do. Holds on really well. Jitsi reverse tires, front and rear. I love these tires. I have them on my other pure bike, the Ozanis. They've been fantastic. They're a good weight, a good grip. The front one on the Ozanis is completely bald now. So the front one seems to wear out pretty quick. The rear one is doing really well on both of the bikes. So I can't recommend those tires enough. I mean, they're fantastic. Yeah, let's take a look at the cockpit now. So the cockpit's pretty standard for a pure trials bike. I'm running the Krukers Wow Ultimate bar. This bar is nice and stiff. I actually prefer the clean bar a little better, but I had one of these from my old street bike, so I put it on here because it fits. It's a nice high rise. I went with a 130/20 stem, which I would make longer now, but that's all personal preference usually. It's been nice. MT5s front and rear. The MT5 on the front came from a different bike that I had already put the HC3 lever on, so that's why it's still on here.
you know, pretty standard stuff. It's pretty low front end, like a lot of the modern trials bikes, which I kind of like. It means you're not going to bunny hop anything, but you know, you get used to the new moves of pedaling into stuff, and yeah, you know, the frame is built really beautifully. The welds look good. You know, the little cable guides are good. Actually, yeah, the one of the little cable guides down here is kind of ridiculous because it's like impossible to get to, but it does keep everything out of the way, and you don't have to worry about stepping on brake boosters or, you know, any of that kind of stuff. So if you want to do your circus tricks and, you know, put your foot on the tire and, you know, do those kind of tricks and stuff, that's great. And there's nothing in the way. It's super clean because all the braking is done down at the hub in the back. So yeah, that's my TMS Evo6 26Y.
So in conclusion, this was a very fun build. It's always fun building bikes. The bike rides great. Once I'd taken care of all the problems, it's so much fun to ride. You know, riding around silently is pretty cool. It does everything that my other bike does, just not quite as well. It's slightly heavier because, you know, rotors. I mean, you know, it's just going to be heavier. Even with the offset of the carbon rims, you know, the rotors are 180 grams or whatever each for the 200s. But anyway, it was a fun project. It doesn't win out over my Ozanis, so I'll be keeping the Ozanis. I'll probably be getting rid of this one. I think it came out really beautiful, well, with the white and the red and the black. It's been a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the next project now, and I understand why a disc brake 26-inch Pure Trials bike is kind of rare. I don't think it should be as rare. I think they should be more common, because unless you're really riding competition, actual competition, it's still a pretty good option. I'd make it 135 in the rear if I had it all to do over again, and I would make the brakes not incorrect in their alignment. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's a lot of fun to ride and gets the job done. And carbon rims, very nice. This fork, I might hang on to this fork. This might end up on the Ozanis actually. So yeah, get out there and ride.